Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into Instagram.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people use pretty much every day,
Mm-hmm.
but, I don't think people really know the full story behind it. So we've got tons of great articles, research all about Instagram and how it's become this global phenomenon.
I think it's interesting too because it really did start as just the simple photo sharing app.
Exactly.
And it's become so much more than that.
Right. So, yeah, we're going to look at how it evolved, how it's had this huge impact on influencer culture, some of the criticisms it's faced.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it should be a good one.
It's going to be interesting to really see how, back in 2010, it started.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just about being in the right place at the right time. They
Mhm.
really had a vision.
Yeah.
Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, the founders, and, the app landscape was already pretty crowded
Oh, yeah.
back then.
Oh, yeah.
So they wanted to go beyond, just another photo app.
And it's funny because their initial concept, Burb,
Right.
was completely different.
Yeah.
Like, it was this multi-featured app with check-ins and even like games and photo sharing, which, looking back, I'm like, wow, what would have happened if they stuck with that?
I think it's interesting too because thinking about, what was happening then,
Yeah.
users were kind of like experiencing, app fatigue.
Right.
Like switching between so many different apps and dealing with clunky interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Burn, as it was originally conceived, would have just added to all of that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, think about all the apps we use now,
Yeah.
and if they were all in one,
Yeah.
it would just be like, ugh,
Total chaos.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they really did make that pivotal decision to simplify it.
They did.
And I think that's one of the things that really led to its success, right? They
Yeah.
stripped away all the extras, focused on what people really wanted,
Exactly.
quick and easy photo sharing. So yeah, it's amazing. And that laser focus on a clean, really intuitive interface
Hmm.
led to the birth of Instagram.
Yeah.
And I always think it's so cool how they came up with that name,
Yeah. I am
like Instant Camera and Telegram.
putting those two together.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
really clever. Do you think that simplicity alone, though, explains like the initial surge in users?
I mean, I think it was key,
Yeah.
but I think there's another thing to think about too, that, at the time, smartphone cameras
Oh, yeah.
were getting so much better,
Right.
right? Like people wanted to capture and share their lives visually,
Yeah.
and Instagram, gave them the perfect platform to do that.
Yeah. It wasn't just about sharing photos. It was about visual storytelling,
Exactly.
which I think is really interesting.
And they really, were kind of ahead of the curve there on
Right.
that trend.
Yeah. It's amazing how they just like rode that wave
Yeah.
of, like the technological advancement and how users were like, wanting to use their phones more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, they had explosive growth
They did.
right out of the gate, which is just incredible.
It's amazing.
Like 1 million users in 2 months.
Wow.
And then by the end of 2011, they had 10 million.
Crazy.
And they weren't even making money at that point, which is so interesting.
It's really interesting, and I think it shows that they were filling a void
Yes.
in the social media landscape.
Totally.
Because, you think about back then, it was a lot of text-heavy platforms.
Mhm.
And Instagram was really visually engaging
Yeah.
and easy to use.
Yeah.
So, they understood the power of visual communication before many others.
Yeah. And then in 2012, I mean, that was the acquisition. And that shocked a lot of people when
Yeah.
Facebook came
Yeah.
in and bought it for $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Which at the time seemed like such an astronomical sum.
They weren't even making money.
I know.
I
It
know.
was crazy. So
It really did raise some eyebrows.
it did. It did. But, looking back, it makes sense
Yeah.
because Facebook, they saw something in Instagram. They
Yeah.
really understood like where things were going
Yeah.
with, visual communication,
Yeah.
the power of influencer marketing, which we'll talk about,
Right.
and how they could monetize it through advertising.
Yeah. So they were thinking ahead.
Way ahead.
And honestly, I think this is something that anyone who's thinking about building a business can really learn from.
For sure.
Is like they saw the future and then they had the resources to scale it up.
Exactly.
So it wasn't just about integrating ads, right?
No, it was about giving them, the infrastructure and support
Yeah.
to help them grow.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really, was a win-win for
Right.
both of them.
Yeah. And it also kind of created this perfect breeding ground
Yeah.
for something that we now just take for granted, the rise of the influencer,
Exactly.
which I think that's a great place to kind of go next.
Yeah, to go from there, let's
Yeah.
let's look at how Instagram
Right.
really facilitated that shift
Totally. Yeah.
and how those features really changed how we interact and consume information online.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
We should definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's dive in.
All right, cool.
So one of the biggest, I think, game changers with Instagram
Yeah.
was the introduction of stories back in 2016.
Yeah.
And they, they took a page from Snapchat's book
Totally.
and they allowed users to share this more like casual content
Yeah.
that would disappear after 24 hours.
Right. It totally changed how people used it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just about, curating the perfect grid. It's about like, oh, here's just a little glimpse into my life, as I'm
Like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
And more authentic, kind of like unfiltered.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when they first introduced it, I was like, I wonder if this is going to like stick around.
Yeah.
Or is this just like a fad?
Yeah, total fad.
But it obviously resonated with people
Yeah.
because they wanted that.
I think it was a reaction to, maybe, that kind of like perfect, polished content. And
Yeah.
it was like, okay, this is a little more real.
Right.
A little rawer. And,
Yeah.
people connected with that.
And by 2020,
Oh, wow.
over 500 million people were using stories every single day,
That's a lot of people.
which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just individuals, businesses were using it too,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
which I think is really interesting
Mm.
because they could connect with their audience on a more personal level.
Yeah, exactly.
They could do like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, or like promotions.
Yeah.
That didn't feel as intrusive as, like
Right.
a regular post.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it was great for engagement, too.
Yeah. And they had like all the new tools like polls and questions and all that.
Oh, yeah, and you can go live,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think this kind of, this whole thing really shows how Instagram was like, always adapting to what users wanted.
Yeah.
And then they went further into video, with IGTV in 2018,
Yes.
which was, meant for longer form content.
Right.
Kind of like,
Like a YouTube,
Yeah.
but within Instagram.
right. I remember when that came out, a lot of people were like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah, like, is that what we go to Instagram for?
Right. Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
The long videos.
Yeah. But then, of course, TikTok comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Everything changes again.
Here we go again.
Right.
Yeah.
Short form, like super engaging video content was like everything.
Yeah.
Especially, for younger people.
Yeah.
So what did Instagram do?
Real.
Yeah. Which was, I think, such a smart move
It was?
because they embraced the trends, that TikTok had made popular,
Mhm.
but they could leverage like their existing user base
Right.
and, the infrastructure they already had.
Exactly.
Then-
It worked. It did. It was so smart.
Right. It totally worked.
Yeah, I think it was a total game changer. It
Right.
really injected, this new energy
Mm.
into the platform.
Yeah.
And, again, they were able to adapt to what users were looking for, which
Yeah.
is really key.
Yeah, they've done a good job of that, haven't they?
To have.
Like constantly
Yeah.
reinventing themselves, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think, like, how all of these features
Yeah.
have actually changed how we, like,
Behave.
behave. Yeah. Like, we consume information differently.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we want those, like, bite-sized,
Yeah.
quick hits of visual content.
Yeah.
And we've all kind of become, like, content creators in a
But
way.
that's right.
With, our phones and everything. It's pretty amazing.
It's wild how Instagram's become like more than an app. It's
Yeah.
like part of our culture now.
Right.
And it shapes, how we communicate, how we
Right.
consume information, like
Mhm.
how we see the world.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah. And, we've talked about, like, how it's impacted industries.
Right.
Like fashion, beauty,
Mhm.
travel,
Right.
where, visual storytelling is everything.
Yeah, those brands have had to adapt big time,
Oh, yeah.
working with influencers
Right.
and like creating content that's really tailored for Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. But, beyond, like, all the glitz and glamour, it's also had this impact on, like, online communities,
Yeah.
and social movements.
Yeah.
People connect.
Yeah, they find their people.
Yeah. And they build support networks.
Yeah, and they can even organize for change.
Right.
which is really cool to see.
Yeah, yeah. And we've seen, like, how it's been used to raise awareness about, like, climate change, mental health,
Yeah.
social justice.
Yeah.
It's given a voice to people who might not have had one before,
Exactly.
which is, I think, really important.
It is.
It's a really powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
But, with anything that's powerful,
Yeah.
there's always, like, another side to the story.
Always two sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we talk about some of the criticisms that have come up,
Yeah.
especially around the impact on mental health and things like that.
Absolutely. We need to acknowledge that.
It's been really interesting talking about all of, like, the positive things about Instagram, how it's grown, how it's evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's like anything. There's always two sides to the coin.
Right.
And I think it's important to acknowledge, like you said, some of the criticisms. And I think, one of the biggest ones is the impact on mental health,
Yeah, for sure.
because it is so visual. It's so easy to get caught up in, like,
The curated perfection.
yeah.
The highlight reels.
Yeah. And you're constantly comparing yourself
Oh, yeah.
to, like, these seemingly perfect lives.
Yeah, and it can make you feel like you're not enough.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's especially true for young people
Yeah.
who are still, figuring out who they are, and they're
Mhm.
bombarded with all these images.
Yeah. And it's easy to forget that it's not real life.
It's not, it's a highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's so important to be mindful of the accounts that you follow.
Yeah.
Are they inspiring you?
Right. Are they making you feel good?
Yeah, or are they making you feel bad about yourself?
Right. Exactly.
It's all about, like, being selective and prioritizing your mental well-being.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think it's not just about, like, the individual impact,
No.
There are, like, bigger societal implications too.
Yeah.
Like, how have these algorithms that are designed to keep us engaged?
Yeah.
How have they shaped, like, the information we see and even, like, the opinions we form?
Yeah, they're designed to keep us scrolling.
Right.
Right. So it's going to prioritize content
Yeah.
that,
That gets a reaction.
evokes some kind of strong emotion.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that can, create these filter bubbles where
Yeah.
you're only seeing stuff that,
You already agree with.
already aligns with your beliefs.
Yeah, and you're not getting exposed to anything else.
Exactly.
Which I think is, especially concerning now.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
everything that's going on
In the world.
in the world. Yeah.
It's, we need to be aware of those filters.
Yeah.
And really make an effort to seek out different perspectives.
Yeah. I think that's so important.
It is. Yeah.
We can't just rely on,
What we're being fed.
what we're being shown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about, like, taking that extra step.
Yeah. And I think, it's important to remember too that, like, social media platforms, while they're great for, connecting with people,
Yeah.
they are businesses.
They are.
At the end of the day,
And they have their own agenda.
right, they want to make money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think we need to, like, kind of be aware of that too.
Absolutely. We need to be savvy consumers of the information.
Yes. I love that savvy consumers.
Yeah, we got to be smart about it,
And realize that it's not always an accurate reflection of reality.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's a curated narrative
Yeah.
that's designed to keep us engaged.
Yeah, exactly. And as technology keeps advancing, I mean, who knows what's next, right?
I know.
Like, we're talking about virtual reality, augmented reality,
The metaverse.
the metaverse. Like, imagine, like, attending a concert
Oh, wow.
virtually.
Through Instagram.
Yeah, through Instagram.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting, but it's also kind of like,
A little scary.
Yeah.
And how do we, like,
navigate all of that.
yeah, and make sure it's being used ethically,
and responsibly.
Yeah, data privacy, all of that.
It's a whole other
The can of worms.
can of worms.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's an ongoing conversation, right?
it is.
And I think, as Instagram continues to evolve, we all have a role to play,
Yeah.
shaping how it
Impacts our lives.
impacts our lives and how we use it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's powerful. So
it is.
we got to be mindful.
Yeah, it's been amazing, like, really looking at this whole journey.
Yeah, from humble beginnings to,
Global phenomenon.
global phenomenon.
And I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
There is.
With Instagram and, with the future of social media,
Yeah.
it's exciting and a little scary,
It is. It is.
but, it's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
Yeah, and how we want to shape that future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, next time you're scrolling through your feed,
Mm-hmm.
remember the power you have as a user.
Yeah, be mindful.
Be mindful, be critical, be creative.
And most importantly, be kind.
Yeah,
Yeah, because your choices really do matter.
they do.
So thanks everyone for joining us on this deep dive into Instagram.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. And we'll see you